Welcome to the Rock and Wellness Podcast, the show that takes you on a voyage to better health, wellness, and happiness that will rock your world. With me, Rachel Joy Olson, your host, your coach, and your biggest fan. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Rock and Wellness Podcast. I am your host, Rachel Joy Olson. Today, I'm sharing with you an interview I did back in 2020 with Denis Manzer. Denis is a wild forager, fermentation enthusiast, and a local food lover from Calgary, Alberta. Even though I recorded this interview back in 2020, I still feel like you will gain great value from this interview even today. So I hope you like it. I am very excited for this episode because I'm here today with Denis Manzer. Denis has been a popular figure in the health and food industry in Calgary for over a decade. And Denis has been helping to guide people to optimum health and wellness through peak performance nutrition and herbalism. So welcome, Denis, and thank you so much for taking time out of what I'm sure is a full schedule for you to be here with me today and share your wisdom with the listeners.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rachel, for having me. It's actually a big honor. I wonder how long we've known each other. Oh, probably like a decade now.
I bet it has been.
That's about how long I've been into the mushrooms. So
wonderful. Well, I'm excited about our topic today, which is the magic of medicinal mushrooms. But before we get into the benefits of these mushrooms, I really want to hear your story. I want to hear your story of how you became the mushroom expert. Will you share?
Yeah, I think it's been over a decade that I've been taking medicinal mushrooms almost every day. So if you want to know what happens to someone when they start taking medicinal mushrooms, well, I guess I'm a social proof or a good example of what happens to you, because I don't know, somehow I get up to superhuman things. People always ask me, how do you do so much? And I swear it's thanks to the mushrooms that I'm able to do everything I do in life. But yeah, so 10 years ago, I was working at Planet Organic in Varsity in Calgary, a health food store. And the first time I saw medicinal mushrooms was in the natural health department there, and they had their Japanese mushrooms of immortality capsules for $80 for 12 caps of reishi mushrooms.
Woo.
Wow, what is this stuff? I'm quite intrigued. What could this substance be all about? I didn't buy the $80 caps though of the reishi. But the funny thing is, like, one of the very next days, I showed up for the first time in my life to the Light Cellar Superfood shop. When I walked in there, I saw they actually had big bags of reishi mushroom slices. Light Cellar Foods was already on it. They were bringing in reishi mushroom. It was $15 for a bag of mushroom slices at that time. And that was the first thing I ever bought from the Light Cellar Superfoods. I was intrigued. This was when I was still in university. And so I started taking this mushroom, and I noticed all sorts of benefits right away as soon as I started drinking it. Increased memory, enhanced immunity. Like, it was definitely having a good effect on me. When I was in university, this is the first effect I noticed was, in university, it was sort of like clockwork. I was in university for about 6 years to get my bachelor's degree, working full-time at the same time. But it was amazing to see when I started taking these mushrooms, all of a sudden, I did not get a cold almost for 5 years after I started taking these mushrooms, when it had been such a pattern before, like rhythmically. So that's when I first noticed the effects of these mushrooms. Like, whoa, they really enhanced my performance academically, like drastically, because it was one of the only things I really started doing differently, because I had already been into health food, So the mushrooms protected me. It was funny. One day I remember showing up to my exams, and I had taken about a liter of reishi mushroom tea, like right before my exam. And I was taking the train to my exam, and I remember walking off the train, and I was just smiling. I was so happy to be there and take my exam, and people were just like looking at me. They could feel something was going on there. Like they would be turning around and looking at me. Why is this dude so happy to be here right now? But it's a lot thanks to this mushroom, the reishi mushroom.
That's great. It's a powerful mushroom.
Yeah, so that's my firsthand experiences with the reishi, and that's when I really started wanting to share this information with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on in this mushroom to produce such good effects for everybody, you know?
So where does the reishi mushroom grow?
Well, apparently reishi grows around the whole world. Perhaps you will not find it in the Arctic, but you can find it on the west coast of Canada. You can find it in Alberta. You can find it on the east coast. You can find it in the Amazon. You can find it.
Does it grow on a particular tree? Or is like what does it grow on in particular? What does it like to grow on?
Reishi, especially here on the west coast of Canada, loves to grow on hemlock.
Okay.
The big conifer hemlock. The one we have in Alberta is called artist's conch. And you can find it growing on all sorts of different trees, in fact. Most of these conchs, the hard, woody conchs growing on trees, these are called the noble tree polypores. So the way to identify them is they do not have gills. They're all have these pores on the bottom, and they're hard as wood. They're growing on trees, and that's the way to identify them. But they're called the conchs, if you will, or the shelf fungi or bracket fungi. There's a whole variety of them, and honestly, they're all equally medicinal in many ways. They all possess very similar medicinal compounds.
Okay, so why would somebody take the reishi? Like if they had a particular issue, like what would be some of the particular reasons why somebody would take a reishi?
Well, okay, I mean, this mushroom, when I first started finding out about it, apparently it's in Japan the number one herb prescribed for adrenal fatigue caused by stress. I guess that's what we're going to be exploring today together is what's going on in this mushroom to actually protect your body from the effects of stress and protect your adrenals from stressing out too much. The other cool way it's prescribed medicinally in Japan especially is number one herb for asthma and allergies and interestingly arthritic conditions. It's like this has to do with its ability to modulate the immune system. This mushroom brings balance to your immune system. And the third reason this is prescribed medicinally in Japan, it's number one herb prescribed for insomnia. So there's a whole cascade of benefits when you start taking this herb especially.
So the reishi mushroom is considered a herb.
Yes, it's used in herbal medicine, though it is not a plant at all.
Okay.
It is a fungi. So all of the medicinal mushrooms have a common sort of benefit to the human body. There's so many different medicinal mushrooms, and they all share certain medicinal compounds. And so, for example, we have the chaga mushroom here, the beautiful from the chaga from Canada. So both of these mushrooms contain identical medicinal compounds so they have a very similar action, though each one has its own different properties. So what do all these medicinal mushrooms share in common? So the medicinal mushrooms contain a compound, and it's called the beta-glucan, and it's a polysaccharide. Your body will absorb the compounds and bring it to your bone marrow. And in your bone marrow, your body builds immune cells. And so the body uses the compounds in these mushrooms essentially as building material for immune cells. And the cool thing is that first and foremost, these mushrooms are nutritive. It's giving your body what it needs to create immune cells. It's very fascinating. So,
Hmm.
but from there's a whole cascade of benefits.
So why don't you think this is used more often in Western medicine, dare I say?
It's funny, Rachel, because this mushroom was actually prized by the ancient Greeks, prized by the Chinese. So it's very commonly used in Chinese medicine. You know what happened, though, for the Greeks? Like, they actually called the medicinal mushrooms the elixirs of long life. But do you know what happened to the Greeks? The Greek islands used to be a big forest, just like Vancouver Island is, or the west coast of Canada. But they cut down all of their trees to make ships for war. They lost all the mushrooms. It's one of the reasons these were lost in the West. People in Europe still use them, like Finland, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Russia. Eastern Europe still has a long, and they really treasure a lot of these mushrooms for medicinal purposes. The North American Indians have many, many uses for these mushrooms. The good news is, though, like right now, there's been a leap in technology, and this leap is in mushroom cultivation technology. It was not possible even 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We didn't know how to cultivate these.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we can actually grow them. It's like a technological leap that I'm sure it might just propel humans into the next stage of evolution. Because could you imagine a world where their immune systems are so strong they never get a cold? There's sort of a cascade of benefits when you start drinking these mushrooms, because as we were talking about, this is the number one herb prescribed for adrenal fatigue.
Right.
Which is if we want to talk about pandemics, we should be talking about burnout pandemic first of all, right? Adrenal fatigue is honestly affecting a majority of people right now in our society, and it all has to do with stress. Stress affects the immune system. We all know that. Whenever you get stressed, that's when you become susceptible to a cold. What happens when you start feeding your immune system? This is the amazing thing. You become protected from stress, the effects of stress. So when you nourish your immune system, you actually can become immune to the harmful effects of stress on the organs of your body. This is where one of the greatest terms in herbalism that everyone should know, adaptogens, or an adaptogenic herb. An adaptogenic herb, the definition is a substance that protects the organs of the body from the damaging effects of stress. So stressful stimuli are proven to affect, first and foremost, the adrenals. But from the adrenals, it affects every other organ in the body. When you're exposed to a lot of stress, your body will divert resources. It will take resources away from the other glands of your body to nourish the adrenals, because it's from the adrenals that fight or flight response occurs. It affects your brain. You're not gonna have the ability to build mood elevating neurotransmitters, because your body is using the substances, those hormonal substances, to build stress hormones, cortisol. So it affects your brain, it affects your thyroid, it affects metabolism, it affects the sexual hormones, Libido is one of the first things to go when you're stressed out a little bit.
Absolutely.
So reishi mushroom is one of these greatest of all adaptogens, a substance that generates adaptation. The stressful stimuli can still exist, but you are not going to be affected by it. How does that work? It seems to be just this whole nourishing of the immune system. I'm sure you've all heard of essential fatty acids, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need omega-3s from a source outside of our body to produce, we need omega-3s. They're essential fats.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've heard of essential amino acids. These are substances we need outside our body to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So the latest research on these compounds in the reishi mushroom, the beta-glucans, the scientists are saying they're going to soon declare a new essential food, and it's going to be essential sugars. Our human body needs these substances from outside of ourselves to build immune cells, and they're starting to discover these compounds in cacti. Apparently, all cacti contain polysaccharides, such as aloe vera. Aloe vera is incredibly rich in the same immune nourishing compounds if you want to ingest it orally. And then seaweeds. All seaweeds are being discovered to have these compounds. And then there's even things like vanilla bean. Vanilla has recently been discovered to be very rich in these polysaccharides. If you want to look them up, they're called glyconutrients. One of the ways these mushrooms and all these herbs work, they have a very interesting effect on the mind and not thinking too much. They are all known to enhance memory, focus, concentration. Every single of these adaptogenic herbs increases memory. It would appear it's one of the cascading benefits of feeding your immune system. So your immune system is responsible for repairing your body wherever you're hurt. So whenever you're hurt in your body, you're going to create an inflammatory response. And it's actually your body's immune system that goes there and helps repair whatever damage is there. So, for example, reishi mushroom is considered one of the most anti-inflammatory substances on the planet. Yeah, it's very interesting. When your immune system is really in a good shape, you have a lot less inflammation. And it's because you have your body has the resources to deal with the inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, reishi mushroom is very useful for arthritic conditions and, interestingly, for digestive problems. It helps really bring down inflammation in the gut. And whenever you have an inflammatory condition, it's very stressful on the body too. Your body has to divert those resources. So
you talk a lot about drinking the reishi. Is that in tea? Is that the best way for a person to ingest the reishi, or are there other ways?
that's my favorite way to go. Is you can buy just the slices of this tea. The other ways to buy this are as extract powders. So these are essentially very convenient ways to add a lot of mushrooms into your diet. For real therapeutic effect, it's not just one capsule a day. You're supposed to take 6 to 8 caps a day. But you can take an effective therapeutic dose, which is 2 to 3 teaspoons a day. And, the various mushrooms you can add to your coffee, you can add to your soup, you can add to your food. When you take care of your immune system, one of the first things it'll start doing is repairing your organs of your body.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually starts to repair your liver. And that's really where reishi is a superstar. It's one of the greatest of all the liver herbs. It's a bitter herb, a little bit bitter, but it's good for your liver. And so it has a liver detoxifying effect, a liver regenerative effect. Reishi can actually rebuild your liver. It's wild, and it's your immune system that's repairing the damage. And then when your liver is super healthy, it's a blood purifier. When your liver is operating at a great capacity, it actually filters your blood better. And the cleaner your blood is the cool thing, the more oxygen it can transport to your brain. So reishi mushroom, in fact, is a famous blood oxygenator and brain oxygenator. The symptoms of not getting enough oxygen to your brain are insomnia, anxiety, and forgetfulness. So reishi mushroom is famous to relieve those symptoms. But lion's mane mushroom, it has all these same benefits to boost your immune system, anti-inflammation, pain relief, intestinal healing. Lion's mane is famous for any kind of digestive problems, and it's because it brings down the inflammation there. What makes lion's mane special is that there's actually a novel medicinal compound first discovered in lion's mane. I wonder if we're going to discover it in other mushrooms too. The lion's mane mushroom is famous because it contains this substance called nerve growth factor. So nerve growth factor, we haven't found it in any other substance on the planet. And this substance causes the synthesis of nerve cells. So this is everywhere in the body, not just your brain. It can help regrow and regenerate the nervous system. So remyelinates the sheath of the brain, really helps memory, focus, concentration, can be very helpful for degenerative conditions of the brain. And fascinatingly, even it can be really helpful for like if you ever injure yourself and suffer nerve damage somewhere, it can help regenerate the nervous system there too.
So would lion's mane be beneficial for someone, let's say, that had like MS, a condition like that?
That's what they say, yes.
Yeah. Is that what would a Chinese medicine doctor prescribe lion's mane, or would a herbalist prescribe lion's mane for something like that?
It's definitely indicated for any memory issues. So
Okay.
we have the highest concentration of people with MS.
Alberta has the highest incidence of MS.
MS in almost the whole world.
Really?
It's most likely due to oil and gas exploration, and they're just burning off this stuff into the air. It's affecting people. You know,
So
I'm sure you've seen these gas wells burning.
Oh, yeah. And so I was assuming that would be, I think we've got a really high incidence of like dementia and Alzheimer's as well. I think I just heard that statistic the other day that we're in Alberta very high for those issues as well. And it's probably along the same lines.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons it's very important for everyone to be on top of all these mushrooms and start taking them every day. Like, we're now growing lion's mane. You can get Alberta grown lion's mane mushroom. Superior quality and so delicious. Well, that's the other cool thing about these mushrooms is they have a definite anti-anxiety effect. A lot of this is because you're oxygenating your brain. You achieve a state of certain zen when you have these mushrooms. And that's one of the reasons they're used for adrenal fatigue as well, because the less you're thinking, the less energy you're giving thoughts outside of the moment, the more energy you have for so much other fun thing. And of course, that's where this memory enhancing ability comes from, because when you're thinking, like, you're being anxious about something, like, oh man, I need to get home and, I really need to send that email or whatever. You're not actually paying attention to the world around you. And when you can quiet those thoughts, you only have to think that once. Why think that over and over again, the same thought? That's where these mushrooms come in handy.
Keeps us more in the present moment, which I think a lot of us need more of, right?
Precisely.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there anybody that couldn't take these mushrooms or shouldn't, or are they safe for everyone?
Well, they are very, very safe to take because they are, first and foremost, they're nutritive. So they're very safe to take over long periods of time, and it's one of the reasons they're considered superior herbs in Chinese herbalism. They are very safe to take with little side effects. That being said, you always, if you're taking meds, you got to do your research. So apparently reishi might be contraindicated for people that are on heart medication, but I would say, like, you have to do your own research, right?
Why do they say it might be contraindicated for patients? I would think it would be, or people on heart medication, I would think it would support it.
Yes, so maybe it has a potentiating effect. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
The contraindications appear to be that reishi does have a good effect to lower high blood pressure,
Mm-hmm.
um, because it's from stress.
Right.
If you're not stressed, your heart pressure is going to go down.
Right. So if a
Your
person's on blood pressure medication, they might have to start coming off that blood pressure medication.
Yes, this is one contraindication with reishi because you're not stressing so much. And when do most heart attacks happen is when you're stressed right out. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're not stressed so much, your heart can actually relax. I haven't heard that with any of the other mushrooms though. I
Mm-hmm.
wonder why. But it's
Yeah.
one of the more well-researched of all the mushrooms.
Maybe that's why it just has more research
But yeah.
on it.
If anyone ever tells you these herbs are not researched, it's totally a myth. These herbs are so well researched. There's literally like reishi literally has over 3,000 studies on JSTOR, like the academic research papers. It's very, very well researched. And then, yeah, everyone has to take their health into their own hands these days.
That's for sure. We have to be our own advocate. That's for sure. So in saying that, if somebody is like, is listening to this conversation right now and they're inspired to take care of their own health and literally feed their immune system, because as both you and I agree, it's nutrition is key. What we feed our bodies makes a big difference. And so when we feed our immune system, where would you say that people start? Would it be getting sliced rishis and start doing tea?
You know, honestly, these mushroom products are so available right now. Any health food store will have it. So just get started. Start taking a little bit every day. It's interesting when you start exploring. You'll find that culinary mushrooms are in fact very medicinal as well. So even the common button mushroom, long held to have no nutritional value, right? It's like this funniest thing they say about it, but it's because they just didn't know what were the compounds in it. So yeah, apparently button mushrooms and oyster mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms, they all have an amazing anti-cancer effect. There's two reasons of this. One is that they actually nourish your immune system so that your immune system starts to take care of itself. White blood cells, of course, hunt down and destroy cancerous cells. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But the other effect these mushrooms have when you eat them is they actually have an effect to cleanse the digestive system. So especially they say when you eat these mushrooms, they liberate undigested matter from the digestive tract. Yeah, they have an effect to cleanse the bowels of what otherwise would be food for opportunistic organisms. And it's interesting, there's theories cancer itself is a fungi, and it can only live by eating what is in your digestive system that's not digested. Very interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
when you eat these mushrooms, they actually have this effect to cleanse and push out all this undigested stuff. Really cool.
Yeah, I teach a lot in my work about digestion and digestive health, and because I'm a big believer that our health starts there, right? Starts in the gut, because I've had a lot of digestive issues myself, so I've had to learn. So I think it's really important that, it's interesting to hear that. I think for most people will hear that, they've been eating mushrooms already, and so they are already doing their bodies a really great service, right? And then just by learning kind of the herbal side with the rishis and the shagas and the lion's mane, now they can maybe take it up to the next level.
Yeah, so it would seem every single mushroom is medicinal. So
that's good. So what if somebody doesn't like the taste of mushrooms? So then reishi tea would be, or a tincture or something would be kind of a good idea, hey?
yeah, that's the cool thing about like reishi mushroom, chaga mushroom. they don't taste anything like the button mushrooms. I mean, that's the thing. If you really are serious about starting a herbal journey or a nutritional journey, you learn to embrace new flavors, which are
That is very true.
they actually start to become very, very delicious. In fact, the mushrooms are known to have umami flavor, the
Hmm.
secret sixth flavor that makes everything so yummy. Yeah, reishi mushroom, for example, add it to your soup broth if you have an extract powder. Add it to your rice. Add it to your yogurt. Add it to your oatmeal. The extract powder is ready to go, ready to add to anything. Add it to your coffee. Whatever way you can deliver this into you, and that's the least painful possible, the most delicious possible, that's the way you should start doing it. For me, I love reishi tea, and I'll always add ginger and honey. Doesn't taste like anything, but it just tastes like a nice ginger honey tea.
Nice and very healing.
Yeah, and ginger is traditionally combined with reishi, especially to it actually potentiates the action on the herb because it's circulatory stimulating.
Hmm.
It will send the reishi where it needs to go in your body. Yeah, you can use any herb like black pepper, anything that just like black pepper potentiates turmeric.
Right.
Ginger potentiates reishi, but you can use any warming stimulant herb like that.
So you had said if somebody wants to learn more about their or embark on a greater herbal journey, I know you do some workshop.
My page, Denis Manzer, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll find tons of info about the mushrooms. And also, I have a new Instagram just about foraging. And I'm sharing lots of information about the wild species of mushroom available here. So that's another really good resource for you.
Now, Denis, is that on your own personal Instagram account or is this a different one?
There's Denis Manzer, that's my personal one. It
Yeah.
has lots of stuff about mushrooms. And then there's a new one just about wild plants, and it's Forage Your Food. Wild plants and mushrooms.
So
Forage your food.
okay. I'm writing this down because I'm going to put all of this information on the show notes for this episode so that people can take a look at that.
I have this amazing story about Corona time. And this one customer, he was actually working in the rigs, like up north.
Hmm.
And before he left, he came and was asking me about what could be some of the best things for him to really be have lots of energy. So I was recommending the mushrooms for him, so that he would have lots of energy. Because of course, the less stress you have, the more energy you have. So I got him on the reishi and the cordyceps mushroom. And his rig, I don't know what goes on up there or whatever. He was living, his rig was one of the ones that got like 97 coronavirus cases or something. I don't know. And he was like living there in the same building as them, and he was driving in the same trucks as them. And he never tested positive for the coronavirus. And he came back just a few days ago and said, I think it was the mushrooms.
Because his immune system was strong and ready for it.
Yes. So if the world is ready for that research, I
Yeah.
don't know, they don't seem to be very interested, but
Hopefully they will be one day. That's why I love having these conversations, because I think the more that people know about this, because I think that's the biggest issue is people just don't know what they don't know, right? They're not being told this information. So I love having these conversations. So thank you so much for having this conversation with me, because I think
okay,
it's
it's going to
really
be
beneficial for people.
the evolution of humanity. What is the world going to look like when people are free from stress?
Can
What
we even
can
imagine a
we
world? Wouldn't that be amazing?
what are we going to achieve as a people when we don't have to put so much energy there?
That's for sure. That's for sure. I hope we see it in our lifetime.
It's happening.
Yeah.
It's starting right now.
Yeah. I hope I look forward to the shift. Thank you so much for coming today and sharing your wisdom, because I know you've got a lot on the mushrooms and the adaptogens, and I love that you've got your favorite reishi there. It's awesome. So for those of you listening to the podcast, I have recorded the video, so please go ahead and go to the show notes to see the video, and you can see Denis with his beautiful reishi mushroom. So thanks
Oh,
again,
yeah.
Denis, for being here with me today.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. You are doing great work. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Denis. And thank you so much to all my listeners and supporters for tuning into this episode of the Rock and Wellness Podcast. I hope you've received great value from the wisdom that Denis has shared with us here today. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Rock and Wellness Podcast. Make sure to visit my website at www.rjowellness.com, where you can subscribe to the show and check out all the show notes. While you're at it, if you found value in this podcast, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about it, that would help out too. You may choose to join the R.J.O. Wellness community to take advantage of the freebies, courses, and coaching that will take your voyage to the next level, or support this podcast with your monthly membership. Until next time, my friends, keep rocking your wellness.